Chosen ones. This one act made God smile. You have no idea how much it mattered. In a quiet coastal town where the sea whispered secrets to the cliffs and the wind carried the scent of salt and forgotten dreams, lived a man named Elias. He was not remarkable in the eyes of the world. His hands were calloused from years of mending fishing nets, his back bent from hauling crates at the dock, and his clothes were patched so many times they looked like maps of old battles. No one called him chosen. No one expected miracles from him. Yet, in the hidden ledger of heaven, Elias had been marked long before he knew it. Elias had no family left. His wife had passed years earlier from a lingering illness, and their only son had left for the city, chasing lights brighter than the ones that flickered over the harbor. The boy rarely wrote, and when he did, the letters were short, filled with excuses about work and money. Elias never complained. He simply folded each letter carefully, placed it in a tin box under his bed, and went back to his routines. Every morning before dawn, while the town still slept, Elias walked the rocky path to the old lighthouse that had been abandoned since the new one was built farther down the coast. The structure was crumbling, paint peeled like dead skin, windows cracked, the iron door rusted shut, but Elias had claimed it as his chapel. No one else came there. Inside, he would light a single candle he bought with the few coins he saved, kneel on the cold stone floor and pray. His prayers were simple. He never asked for wealth, health, or revenge on those who had wronged him in small ways over the years. He prayed for his son, Daniel. Not for Daniel's success or return, but for Daniel's heart. Let him find kindness in a world that rewards sharpness, Elias would whisper. Let him remember how to love without keeping score. And if he forgets me entirely, Lord, don't let him forget you. One winter, the storms came harder than anyone remembered. The sea rose like an angry beast, swallowing boats and smashing them against the rocks. The town lost half its fleet in a single night. Elias's small skiff was among them, gone in the dark, splintered beyond repair. With it went his only means of income. The dockmaster offered him odd jobs sweeping warehouses, but it barely paid for bread. The townspeople whispered that Elias was finished. Some offered pitying glances, others avoided him as if poverty were contagious. Daniel sent one brief message through a neighbor's phone. Heard about the boat? Sorry, things are tight here too. No offer to help, no promise to visit. Elias felt the weight settle deep in his chest, like stones in his pockets pulling him under. Yet, every dawn, he still climbed the path to the lighthouse. The candle burned lower each time. He could afford only one a week now, but he lit it anyway. His prayers remained the same. No bitterness crept in, no demands. Only gratitude for the years he had been given and a quiet plea that his son would not lose his way in the city's glare. One evening, as the sun bled red across the horizon, Elias sat on the lighthouse steps, exhausted. His stomach growled. He had eaten only a heel of bread that day. A young woman appeared on the path below, a stranger, dressed in city clothes, her coat too thin for the wind. She carried a small backpack and looked lost. She climbed slowly, hesitant. "Excuse me, is this the old lighthouse? My phone died and I can't find the road back to town. I think I'm turned around." Elias stood, brushing salt from his hands. "It's not safe up here after dark. Come, I'll walk you down." She hesitated. "You don't have to. I don't want to trouble you." "No trouble," he replied softly. "The path is tricky if you don't know it." They walked in silence at first. The wind howled, but Elias pointed out the safe footing, the places where rocks shifted. When they reached the edge of town, the woman stopped. "Thank you," she said. I don't have cash. My wallet's in the hotel, but if you'll wait, I can." Elias shook his head. "No need. Just get inside where it's warm." She looked at him then, really looked. His coat was threadbare, his shoes cracked. Something softened in her eyes. "What's your name?" "Elias." "I'm Maya." "Thank you, Elias, truly." She disappeared into the lights of the town. Elias turned back toward the cliffs, his stomach still empty, his home still cold. He did not think of it again. Months passed. Spring arrived with hesitant warmth. One morning, a letter came, not from Daniel, but from a law office in the city. Elias opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a check, a large one, enough to buy a new boat, repair his home, and live comfortably for years. Attached was a note from Maya. "Dear Elias, you won't remember me as clearly as I remember you. I was the lost girl on the lighthouse path last winter. That night, I had come to this town to end things. The world felt too heavy, too cruel. I had walked those cliffs intending to let the sea take me. But you appeared. You didn't ask questions. You didn't preach. You simply walked me to safety, as if it was the most natural thing in creation. In that small act, expecting nothing, wanting nothing, you reminded me that kindness still exists, quiet and stubborn, even when no one sees it. I went home, I got help, I started living again. And when I heard your story from the townspeople, how you lost everything yet still climbed that path every day, I knew I had to find a way to repay what you gave me without knowing it. This isn't charity, this is gratitude. You saved a life that night, Elias, and heaven, I suspect, smiled wider than you will ever know. With deepest thanks, Maya." Elias sat on his porch, the letter in his lap, tears tracing lines through the dust on his cheeks. He looked up at the sky, clear. In the shadowed embrace of a forgotten coastal town named Harborton, where the Atlantic Ocean clawed relentlessly at the jagged cliffs and the gulls cried like lost souls, lived a man whose life was etched in the quiet rhythms of the sea. His name was Elias Thorne, a fisherman whose weathered face told stories of tempests survived and loves lost. At 62, Elias moved with the deliberate slowness of someone who had carried burdens heavier than any net full of herring. His hands, scarred and knotted from decades of hauling lines and mending sails, were a testament to a life spent in service to the unpredictable waters. Yet, beneath his unassuming exterior lay a spirit as enduring as the lighthouse he cherished, a beacon not of light, but of unspoken faith. Harborton was a place time had overlooked. Its streets wound like veins through clusters of salt-bleached cottages, where fishermen's widows knitted by oil lamps and children dreamed of escaping to the glittering cities beyond the horizon. The harbor was the town's heart, pulsing with the comings and goings of boats that bore names like Eternal Hope and Wanderer's Rest. Elias had once owned a modest skiff called Grace's Whisper, named after his late wife, Grace. She had been the light in his world, a woman with laughter like summer rain and eyes that held the depth of the ocean. They had married young, in a ceremony blessed by the salty spray of the waves, and together they raised their son, Daniel, teaching him to read the stars and respect the sea's moods. But life, like the tides, had a way of pulling things away. Grace fell ill when Daniel was just 15, a relentless fever that no herbal remedy or doctor's visit could quell. Elias watched her fade, her once vibrant cheeks hollowing like eroded cliffs. In her final days, she whispered to him, "Promise me you'll keep praying, Elias, for Daniel, for yourself. God listens, even when the world doesn't." He promised, holding her hand until it grew cold. After her burial in the hillside cemetery overlooking the sea, Elias poured his grief into his work and his faith. Daniel, however, grew restless. The town felt too small for his ambitions. At 18, he left for the bustling city of Portridge, 200 miles inland, promising to send money and visit often. The promises thinned like morning mist. Letters came sporadically, filled with tales of factory jobs, late nights, and fleeting romances. Elias read them by candlelight, folding each one into a tin box under his bed, a silent archive of a father's unwavering love. Elias's days followed a sacred routine. He rose before dawn, when the sky was still a canvas of indigo and stars. Slipping on his worn boots, he trudged up the winding path to the old lighthouse on Cliff's Edge. Built in the 1800s, it had guided ships safely for generations until a modern tower replaced it farther south. Now it stood derelict. Its spiral staircase creaked underfoot, vines clawed at its brick walls, and the lantern room's glass panes were fractured like broken promises. But to Elias, it was holy ground. No priest presided here, no congregation sang hymns, just Elias, a single beeswax candle flickering in the draught, and his whispered prayers. He never prayed for riches or revenge, not for the neighbor who shortchanged him at the market, nor for the dockmaster who favored younger men for the best berths. His words were always for Daniel. "Lord," he'd murmur, kneeling on the cold, salt-crusted floor, "guard his heart in that city of steel and noise. Let him find joy not in gold, but in giving. If he strays, draw him back with your gentle hand. And if my time comes before his return, let him know I loved him fiercely." Sometimes tears mingled with the words, but Elias never wavered. It was his one act of defiance against despair, a quiet rebellion of hope. That winter, the storms descended like divine wrath. They began as whispers, a chill wind from the north, swells that rocked the boats like cradles, but soon they roared. On the night of the great gale, Elias secured his skiff as best he could, tying extra knots and whispering a prayer over the hull. The townsfolk barricaded windows and huddled by fires, but the sea would not be denied. Waves crashed over the breakwater, splintering wood and swallowing anchors. Elias awoke to screams and the thunderous crack of timber. Rushing to the harbor in the pelting rain, he found chaos. Boats dashed against rocks, masts snapped like twigs. Grace's whisper was gone, reduced to driftwood bobbing in the foam. Half the fleet lay in ruins. Men wailed over lost livelihoods, families clung to each other in the downpour. The aftermath was grim. Insurance covered little for men like Elias, who owned no grand vessel. He scavenged what he could, splintered planks for firewood, tangled nets to mend and sell. The dockmaster offered him menial work, sweeping warehouses, scrubbing decks for pennies. It barely bought bread and tea. The townspeople's pity stung worse than hunger. Old Mrs. Harrow from the bakery slipped him day-old loaves, murmuring, "God bless you, Elias." The butcher, Mr. Klein, avoided his gaze, as if misfortune were a plague. Whispers followed him. Poor old Thorne, lost his wife, his boy, now his boat. What's left for him? Daniel's response came via a crackling phone call from a neighbor. "Sorry about the storm, Dad. Things are rough here too. Overtime shifts, rent due, can't send much." Elias thanked him, his voice steady, hiding the ache. Yet dawn after dawn, he climbed to the lighthouse. The candle supply dwindled. He rationed them, lighting one only every few days. His prayers grew leaner, but no less fervent. "Thank you for the breath in my lungs, Lord, for the sea that gives and takes. Keep Daniel's spirit kind." Hunger gnawed at him, cold seeped into his bones, but he persisted. It was in these moments of solitude that Elias felt closest to something greater, a presence that watched, not with judgment, but with quiet approval. One twilight in the heart of that bitter season, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of bruised purple and fiery orange, Elias sat on the lighthouse steps, his body weary from a day of scrubbing fish scales from docks. His stomach twisted in protest. He'd eaten only a crust of bread and a few withered apples that morning. The wind whipped his thin coat, carrying the distant crash of waves. That's when he saw her, a figure ascending the path, hesitant and out of place. She was young, perhaps in her late 20s, with city clothes ill-suited for the rugged terrain, a wool coat too light for the chill, boots more fashionable than functional, and a backpack slung over one shoulder. Her hair, dark and tangled by the breeze, framed a face pale with exhaustion. She paused when she spotted him, eyes wide like a startled deer. "Excuse me," she called, her voice trembling slightly. "Is this the old lighthouse? My phone died hours ago and I've lost the trail back to town. I think I'm turned around." Elias rose slowly, joints protesting. He saw the fear in her eyes, not just of being lost, but of something deeper, a shadow that clung to her like fog. "Aye, this is it," he replied gently. "But it's no place to linger after dark. The path turns treacherous. Come, I'll guide you down." She hesitated, glancing back at the cliffs where the sea churned below. "You don't have to. I don't want to impose." "No imposition," Elias said, his tone warm as hearth fire. "I've walked this path 1,000 times. It's the least I can do." They descended in companionable silence at first, the only sounds the crunch of gravel underfoot and the ocean's eternal roar. Elias pointed out hazards, a loose rock here, a slippery patch there, his voice steady and reassuring. As they walked, she began to speak, fragments spilling out like pebbles from a pocket. "My name's Maya. I'm from the city, Portridge. Came here on a whim, needed to clear my head. Work's been overwhelming. Everything's been overwhelming." Elias nodded, not prying. "The sea has a way of putting things in perspective, swallows your troubles, or at least makes them seem smaller." She glanced at him, curiosity piercing her weariness. "You live here? What do you do?" "Fisherman," he said simply. "Or was till the storm took my boat. Now I make do." "I'm sorry," she murmured. "That sounds hard." "Life's full of storms," Elias replied. "But they pass, and sometimes they leave gifts behind, like clearer skies." By the time they reached the town's edge, where lantern lights spilled from cottage windows, Maya had relaxed. She stopped under a lantern light, turning to him. "Thank you, really. I don't have cash on me, left my wallet at the inn, but if you wait, I could—" Elias shook his head, a faint smile creasing his face. "No need, miss. Just get warm and safe. That's payment enough." She studied him then, taking in his patched clothes, the lines of hardship etched deep. "What's your name?" "Elias Thorne." "Maya Reyes." "Elias, you're a good man. Thank you." She vanished into the glow of the town, and Elias turned back towards his solitary home, the encounter already fading like a dream. He didn't know that Maya had come to those cliffs not for a hike, but for an end. A rising star in Portridge's corporate world, she had climbed the ladder of success only to find it leaning against a wall of emptiness. Endless hours, cutthroat colleagues, a failed engagement that left her heart in shards. It all culminated in a despair so profound she sought the sea's oblivion. But Elias's simple kindness, a stranger's guidance without question or expectation, pierced the darkness. It was a spark, reminding her that humanity still flickered in unexpected places. Back in Portridge,